So you guys, bit of an opening nerd corner now in the Vienna. So I just I was watching a recording of one of our Chess Bootcamp live sessions with Christina, working through a hand and brain exercise against a bot, and Christina was saying that she plays the Vienna and has been really diving deep into the Vienna. So because I'm still kind of messing around, I play some Vienna games sometimes as white, and sometimes I play some Danish, and still kind of open-minded, but there's certainly a lot to be said for picking an opening and sticking to it. So I thought, I played a couple of Viennas recently, and I thought I'd look on openingtree.com, throw in Christina's username, and just have a browse to see, what's she been doing recently in the last 6 months in the Vienna. And I found a line where Christina appears to be struggling or not knowing how to proceed. So I thought, well, let's do a bit of research on that line, because it may come in useful for me, but it should certainly come in useful for Christina. So the move sequence is this. So it's e4, e5, knight c3, knight c6. Okay, and now you can see on here. So I can't remember exactly what I've got it set to. It's about the last 6 months with Christina as white. So Christina's played f4 once here and lost that game, but has played bishop to c4, which is the mainline move, 105 times with a 57 to 47 win rate. Okay, which is very respectable. Now, in response to this, the most common response from black here is knight to f6, and here it kind of falls down because Christina is then slightly underperforming what white normally does from this position, because white normally wins 59%, whereas Christina's only winning 48%. So, challenge accepted, right? So after this knight comes out, which is a very, very natural looking move, and of course is very popular, as we've seen. Right, so what Christina's tended to do is to push the d3 pawn here. And that's very logical. You're opening up this bishop. You might want to push f4. If e takes f4, you can then recapture with the bishop, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't work out all that well. They bring out their bishop to here, and you push f4, and we're certainly not dominant as white. So I took that as a little challenge. So I've got a little Lichess study here, which is called the anti-Stanley. Okay, so I've called it the anti-Stanley defense for Vienna as white. So the Stanley defense is when they bring out that second knight. Okay, and I've played through some of the most common lines from black, and there seems to be a bit of a setup that's quite easy to remember that you can use, and we can all use if you're a Vienna player, when you face this. So e4, e5, Vienna, they copycat. Knight c6 is the most common response with 40%. Knight to f6 is only slightly behind it. Knight to f6, we'll probably go into a Vienna line, or you could Vienna gambit line with f4, or you could go Vienna main line with bishop c4. But anyway, this is the one we're interested in. Bishop comes out, and then the most common move, knight to f6 here. So this is the Max Lang. Half the time you're going to get this other knight coming out, because your opponent probably doesn't play against that many Viennas, but this is perfectly natural development, and why not? Okay, and this is where we don't do terribly well. Now, white does on average here, I'll show you my settings, I've set it 2000, 2200, 2500 in blitz and upwards, blitz and longer. So white does score 50% at the kind of advanced level with d3. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it, but I'm proposing something else. I'm proposing to drop the bishop back to b3 in this position, and that actually does quite well. I need to scroll down to find it. Bishop b3 here, 500 games, 52% here for white, so it's doing slightly better. Well, what is it about dropping the bishop back to b3? It's almost kind of losing a tempo, but this is a move that I know that it was very much favoured by Bobby Fischer. You're taking the bishop from a square where it's undefended, you're putting it onto this square where it's defended twice, it's also defending these pawns in turn, and it's still eyeing down on f7, and it can't be kicked away in a hurry, right, by black's pieces. So let's follow through the most common move. So bishop c5 here is the most common by quite a way. With 58% of the time, they'll just develop their bishop. Of course they are, right? They don't want to stick it here in the way of the d-pawn. They don't want to stick it here. It could get just kicked with a3. It belongs there. It's looking down at f2, and now black's getting ready to castle. Perfectly natural, okay? And here again, d3 is the most common move by white, but queen f3, right? So this is a bit like the Paulson variation with the that you're probably aware of if you're a Vienna player. Okay, black will here castle a lot of the time. Oh, hang on. Okay, so no, this is with the knight coming in. Okay, knight comes in. So castles they've played 7 times. Knight to d4 they've played 7 times. Okay, and this does look better for black on average. Okay, you slide the queen across the g3. Okay, they take. And you don't even recapture immediately. You come in with check. Grab this pawn with check. Okay? You're still attacking the knight. There's no way that they can deal with both at one time. Let's say they block with the queen. That is actually a mistake. You trade queens and then you recapture the knight. And white is actually better here. White is actually a pawn up because this pawn we captured in the middle. We've got both central pawns. We've got, arguably a bit more control. One of our pawns has moved towards the centre. Yes, black does have the bishop pair, but according to the computer here, white is +2 already, and we've resolved our Stanley variation problem. Let's look at another one quickly. So here, the idea is that we're not really supposed to be memorizing moves as such, but just thinking about a kind of position that we want to get to. Okay, bishop comes out, they play the knight. Okay, drop the bishop back to b3. Okay, their bishop will almost always come out, and now queen f3. And so another thing is this knight will very often come to e2. Right, you're going to push d3 at some point. You're probably going to castle short, and you'll be kind of all right here. Okay, so now you can push d3, and black pushes d6, and here white is very, very slightly better. It's kind of average, but white has won 3/4 of the games from this point. Okay, so let's say you put your knight on knight g to e2. They come out. What do? We slide the queen sideways, line it over the king. Okay, and this is pretty much the pattern that this is the setup that you're going for. Okay, I'll just show a few more most common moves. Bishop. This is an interesting one actually. This line. So you can threaten this bishop. You throw the bishop out there, tempting them to take. Now this position has never actually been seen on the Lichess database so far. But now, of course, this guy here is pinned. Yeah. And you can attack it with h3. Let's say the king moves. You don't even immediately recapture the bishop. Okay. You are threatening that when you do capture the bishop, you've got queen and rook on here as well. Okay. So this is really, really fascinating. I mean, I think most of us probably would just take the bishop first. Okay. But if you take immediately, then black can recapture the pawn with knight or queen. Here they might drop their queen back, then you can recapture the bishop. Now you've got to be, there's something to be a little bit careful about here, which is that you can't just immediately go in and grab this pawn on h6. Why not? Because there's a threat, right? I'll show you the moves. If queen takes here, right, we've just lost a bit of advantage. Why? Because black can actually capture on f2 with the bishop. You can't recapture because if you do, knight comes in with a royal fork. Okay, and you're just gonna lose there. So that's just one thing to bear in mind. Okay, so there you go. You'll just probably just push f3 here, defend this pawn, and white is better in all lines. White is better here. Just look at a couple of other variations. So this is Max Lang. We come out, they put the knight, drop the bishop back. Let's say their bishop comes out aggressively to b4, right? And that's actually inaccurate. Okay, you can throw knight e7, knight g to e7 straight away. You can just castle, play d3. It's all the same kind of moves over and over again. And here, knight d5 looks good. They take, you take with the pawn, and we've got another, again, a very comfortable situation. So that's all fine. But you can see the same kind of pattern emerging each time. Okay, here's another variation that you might see fairly commonly. Okay, so in this one, I've actually thrown the queen out straight away. Okay, which is certainly an option. The computer doesn't approve of that actually. So queen f3 doesn't score so well. In fact, let's vary this one. So I'm going to promote this variation. So I've literally just been working on this. Okay, I'm going to delete this whole variation. And let's see what's most common. Okay, bishop c5. And we've pretty much, I think, just transposed here. Okay, d3 is fine. Knight g to e2 is fine. Here wins very well. They'll push d6. We can go ahead and castle. They will castle, right? And d3. And it's a similar kind of situation. You might prefer to have your queen out here before moving the knight, but that's it. So this looks relatively comfortable. We've got a kind of a setup that we can play for. You might have your queen out here first, but basically it's dropping the bishop out to b3, where it can sit a bit more comfortably. And you've always got ideas about attacking the middle. You've always got ideas about throwing out f4 and breaking things up, using your dark squared bishop to come down and join in on the fun on the king side. So Christina, mate, this is one for you. Hope that's useful, and one to feed into the old Vienna repertoire. Okay, that's all I've got to say. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you later.